Hey guys, it's Chelsea. I wanted to do a quick video for you on the tent that we've been using. So if you guys have been watching some of my little chat videos recently, Nathan and I have taken up camping this summer, and we've really been enjoying it a lot. And I wanted to do some information about some of the gear. I also want to do kind of like an overall packing video as well. But one of the things that I really wanted to do is show you the tent that we use, talk about the things I like about it, but also show you how to put it together, because it's the first tent I've ever put together, but I feel like it's fairly easy and fairly intuitive, so I want to show you how I can do it all by myself. So the tent that we have is the REI Half Dome 2. This is a 2-person tent. They make the REI Half Dome 2 in a plus size as well, which just gives you a little more length in the tent. We went with the smaller one. It is not a bad size. I will tell you that it is not packed super well right now, just because it was actually inside drying from camping last weekend, and I just pulled it off the line, stuffed it in the sack to come out and show you how to put it together. So it actually does get a little smaller than this. I just didn't pack it super efficiently. This tent weighs a little bit over 4 pounds, and we've been super happy with it as far as how it's been for our trips. We've been in weather as cold as 40 degrees and as warm as 80 degrees, and in dry weather and pouring rain, and it has done well in all of those. We've taken it out about 5 times now, but we've really enjoyed it a lot. It is a 3-season tent, so it's not designed for deep winter, but it is designed for all 3 seasons because it does have a Rainfly as well as a ventilated section. So I want to put it together for you, and then I'll show you some of the things that we like about it. Alright, so one thing that is important when you have a tent is that you have a footprint to use with it. So what the footprint is you put it down on the ground below the tent. It helps protect the bottom of the tent, and it also helps increase the waterproofness of the bottom of the tent. This is really going to extend the lifetime of your tent. This tent did not come with one. Most of them do not. You usually have to buy it separately, but this one is actually the footprint that's made directly for this tent, so it's the perfect size for it. If you were to get this tent and footprint, don't be alarmed that the footprint is a little smaller than the tent itself. It's made that way to keep water from pooling in between the two. So the first thing we'll always put out is our footprint. It comes in this separate bag, which is nice because it's usually the dirtiest part of the tent, but then it does fit in the regular bag with everything else. We usually just stuff it down in on the side. So this is very basic. It's just a mat, and it has grommets on the end for the tent to fit in it. So one thing to keep in mind when you're setting up your tent is that you're going to want your doors to be, whichever direction you'd like them to be. So for this tent, the long part of the mat is where the doors are, and the width of the mat is where the ends of the tent are. So just think about that when you're setting it up for whatever you're looking to do. All right. I'm going to see if I can do this so that you guys can still see it. Alright, so now I usually pull the rest of the stuff out of the bag just so that I'm ready to go with it. So in the bag now I've got the 2 parts of the tent, which is the inside of the tent and the Rainfly. I have a bag with poles in it, and I have a bag with stakes in it. We did end up buying some extra stakes just to have on hand because it came with just enough, and we wanted to have some extras. So, alright, so the next thing you're going to get is the actual tent, which is this part here. And the Rainfly of your tent, you can choose the color of. We chose this nice teal color, but there are a few different color options. Alright, so now we take the inside of the tent, and we're going to lay it out on our Rainfly here. So I usually just get it arranged. Hopefully you're seeing that, yeah. So I usually just get it arranged with the long sides, lined up and everything there. And then we're actually going to put the poles in to make it into a tent. So these poles are really nice because you don't have to figure out how to put them together or anything. They're all connected. You just kind of open them up and they sort of just do their thing, which is really convenient. But then they also fold down really small, which I appreciate. All right, so these are the poles, and like I said, as you start opening them up, they're just gonna the joints just sort of go together as they're meant to. This sort of forms, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, it's sort of like a T structure when we get done here. This tent is very easy to put together for just one person. Although usually when we're doing the poles part, we do work together when Nathan and I are together. All right. I will tell you, the very first time we put this together, this part confused us the most. Because we actually had it backwards at first, and we couldn't figure out what was going on. All right. So now, as you can see, I'm trying just to make sure that you can see. All right, so we've got the poles over the tent here. And what we're gonna do first is here, this is the edge of the tent, like this is the peak of the tent. We're going to wanna put these poles into this peak, and it goes this side and that side. The first one's obviously easy to get in, and the second one's a little bit harder because you sort of have to stretch a little bit. This is where, if you do have a second person, it's nice for someone to hold theirs in while they put it, but it's not too bad. All right, so now that you have those, the next thing you can do is start putting the poles into the corners. Now there are hooks that go on. You're welcome to go ahead and hook those as you go, but I found usually they just end up coming off anyway. So what you're looking to do here is get, this end here into the corner of the tent. And you sort of have to be forceful with it at first, and that feels a little weird because you're like, I spent all this money on this tent and now I'm pulling it around, but you do have to kind of pull on it. So you want to get the tent in there and the footprint. So you're going to want to do that on all of the corners. As you do that, your tent's going to start to take shape. So now we basically have a tent, as you can see. I'm hoping, yes. All right, so now I am going to clip these clips onto here. And this is actually going to kind of help form the shape of the tent. All right, so now as you can see, you pretty much have a completely livable tent. You could stay in the tent like this if you wanted to. You'll notice that it's very meshy and airy, which is really cool. It actually also has two entrances, one over here and one over there, which was something we were really looking for in a tent, because that way you don't have to climb over whoever you're staying with to get up in the middle of the night. So that was really important to us. To be honest, we have never slept in it without the Rainfly on, which is what I'm about to put on, mainly because where we live, it almost always rains. So, well, this is very nice and airy. Let's put the Rainfly on now. So the Rainfly is the colored part, which depending on which one you get, ours is teal, I think they have orange and red and like maybe an army green. So this is going to go over the tent. It's going to make it waterproof, which is very nice if you don't like sleeping in the rain. All right, so the key to getting this on is these orange zippers are the doors. So you're going to want to put those over your doors. Once you get it mostly in place like that, you're going to want to lock the Rainfly down. So there's 2 grommets. Remember how I had to put those grommets on the top pitch of the tent to make the top of the tent? Those grommets are underneath this Rainfly too, and then there's some straps on the side that I'll put on. So I have my grommet. I'll put it over there, and then I'll do the other one as well. Those on. The other thing I want to do is under each of the corners of the Rainfly, which you can see right here, you have this piece of Velcro. This goes onto the tent pole to help hold your Rainfly on. We like to put it above this second loop here. On all of the corners. Alright, so now once you have that on, if you pull your Rainfly down, your tent is together with the Rainfly on it. Now, the next thing you need to do is to put the corners of that Rainfly under the tarp, or under the tent itself. So one thing that's really nice is it has these straps on it. So this is actually going to go under here to hold this Rainfly on. And these straps actually allow you to loosen this up to get it under there and then tighten it up really nice and tight. So that is very nice. As you can see here, I can just tighten this up, and that's going to get my Rainfly on nice and snug. So I'm going to do that on all 4 of the corners now. Alright, so now that that is on, I've got my Rainfly secure. Right here I actually now have vestibules. This allows me access to my door because these do open up, but also I can leave part of it protected. So these have strings on the bottom. Let me get you a little bit closer. So these have these strings on the bottom where you can actually put your tent peg through, and then it has this nice locking system that allows you to adjust it to the place that you need it, then lock it in place so that you can have your vestibule exactly where you want it. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to peg down my sides to make my vestibules. I'm going to peg down each of my corners of the tent so that it stays on the ground, and then I'm also going to peg these sides, or I guess stake is a better word. So these sides allow you to pull out the side of the tent and get more ventilation on the tent. So we'll do all that. I know from experience that this ground is very hard where I am, so I'm just going to put the tent pegs in a little way, just because I'm just showing you, but obviously you put them in all the way. All right, so as I said, I didn't put the pegs in all the way just because this is very soily, clay-like, dirty ground, and so I didn't want to struggle with them. I just wanted to kind of show you what it generally looks like. So I'll walk you around the tent and show you, and then we'll go inside. All right, so here you have your vestibule. The really nice thing about this is that you can unzip it, and you can actually roll this back. And I can actually turn the camera so you can see what I'm doing. You can roll this back, and then you have this handy cord that has gotten hung up on itself. Hung up under my Velcro there. Okay, so you've got this handy cord that allows you to tie this side back so that you can get nice ventilation while still having protection here, which last weekend it was very humid and a little misty, and this was really nice to be able to have the tent have ventilation without having it completely open to the elements. You can also, put any type of gear you need to store outside under the corner of your vestibule for safekeeping as well. So we also have these side ventilation points, which I talked about, and then you have your other vestibule over here as well. Getting in and out of the tent is really easy. You just unzip like this, and then these doors actually fit in a very nice pocket up here at the top. And this is the inside of the tent. Nathan and I fit very comfortably in here with our backpacks at the end as well. Obviously there's still some dirt in here we need to clean out from our last trip. But we are quite happy with this tent. We usually have our sleeping pads, 2 sleeping pads and our sleeping bags. And that works really well for us. This tent does have a lot of organizational pockets. It has some pockets up here at the top for putting things in, and then it also has pockets on each side of the door. You've got one over here as well. One thing I will warn you of is when you're figuring out which position you want to sleep, think about this tag. I guess we could cut it off, but there was last weekend we ended up turning around right before bed because we realized that tag was going to be in our head. So it's just something to think about. Another thing out here that is very nice are these vents. So these are on the Rainfly, and there's 2 on each side. And they actually allow ventilation into the tent. That helps tremendously with the temperature of the tent when you're getting in it at night. So if you can set up your tent, in the afternoon, then open those as it cools off in the evening, it is so much nicer than if you leave them closed. And I will tell you, on the 2 nights we've slept in the tent where it's rained very hard, we've had those open and not a drop of rain has gotten inside. So those are something that we really like in the tent a lot. We've been incredibly happy with this tent. I hope this little tutorial helps you to figure out how we use it. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm going to take my tent down now since I don't think people want it in the backyard anymore. So I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Hey guys, I was just watching back the tent video that you just watched, and I realized there was something I forgot to mention that was confusing to us at first, and I wanted to make sure you weren't confused about it. So when you open your pole bag, which are the orange poles that we use to create the tent, you're going to find this. That's not connected to the rest of the poles, it's just a loose piece of metal. And when we first were trying to put the tent poles together, we were super confused as to how this played into the whole action of putting together a tent. And we tried a bunch of different ways to get it to fit onto the tent or connect stuff on the tent. We were very confused. This does not have anything to do with putting the tent together in normal circumstances. What this is a pole splint. So let's say you're, out in the middle of nowhere and something happens to one of your pole tents and it breaks, or it bends and it won't make the shape of the tent because there's a lot of tension on those poles. Say something were to fall on the tent or you were to fall into it, it seems very strong. I think it would take a lot to do that, but this is actually a splint that fits over the pole. So let's say I had a bend in the pole. I would put this over the bend to straighten it back out and put like a weak spot. You know, this would basically brace that weak spot, and then I'd put duct tape on either end of it to hold it on until I could get out of wherever I was and buy a new pole set for the tent. So we were very confused about this when we first put together the tent for the very first time. We actually had to Google what it was. So I didn't want to forget to mention that. One tip I do have is we do carry this with us in our tent bag, and just in case anything would ever happen, I'd rather have it with us. But we almost lost it the first time we were camping because we had it in the bag with the poles, and when we dumped the poles out, like we had a tendency to just kind of dump the pole bag out and kind of let them cascade out as they came out. This fell out and we didn't realize it right away. So what I actually do now is I put it in the bag with the tent stakes, which I think I called pegs like 10 times in that video, which is slightly embarrassing, but with the tent stakes, because we have more stakes than we use, so I don't just like dump the stake bag over. I usually just pick stakes up out of it. So putting this in that bag seems to make it less likely that we're going to lose it. So I wanted to give you a quick tip on that. The other thing I just thought of when I was watching the video back, you remember on the sides of the tent where I said you could pull it out for ventilation? Not the vestibules, but the other sides. And they had that black cord you could pull on. That cord, when you first get the tent, is actually in the bag with the stakes, which was confusing to us as well. We weren't sure what to do with that. So you actually loop it around a little loop that's on those sides of the tent to allow you to make that pull ability. Like I said, that's great for ventilation. I also remember that the night it was raining, it was really great to have the rainwater run off the side of the tent instead of pooling on the side of the tent. So we do really recommend that you use those if there's any chance of rain, definitely. And it does help a lot with ventilation. So anyway, I didn't want you to be mystified by this tiny piece of metal like we were, because we tried to stick it a bunch of random places on the tent trying to figure out what to do with it. So I just wanted to drop that quick note. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll talk to you later. Bye.